Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today is the first part of our two-part examination of Warlock 5, a 1986 series published by Aircel Comics. Aircel Comics was a very weird, interesting company. Aircel was had nothing to do with the comic book business. I think they did vents, air conditioning vents, something like that. And it was a small company in Canada. And one of their employees was named Barry Blair. He was a big comic fan. I guess Aircel wasn't doing well. And he approached his boss and said, hey, I know we're going out of business. Why don't we do something radical? Why don't we change the whole company to make comic books? We could make some money. And he had some kind of prospectus, convinced the owner, and that's just what they did. It's weird. And they were actually quite successful. For a black and white comic company in the 80s, they lasted for years. They had many titles. I assume they made a decent profit because they kept going. But Warlock 5 is by far the best thing they ever published. Easily. Aircel was known for basically hiring teenage kids to draw their comics. Almost everyone who drew for them, you never heard of them before. There was some teenage kid trying to make a name for themselves. But Warlock 5 is different. It's written by Gordon Derry, who was a working professional sci-fi author. And it was drawn by Denis Beauvais. And he was a working, successful painter of covers for sci-fi fantasy paperback books. Had hardcover books too. So these guys knew what they were doing. They weren't a bunch of dumb kids. And it shows. You can tell by looking at these covers that Denis Beauvais, this guy, he's got the skills to pay the bills. But I guess in his 20s, he realized, I want to try comic books. He never drew comics. He just did painting. And he just dove in and became a comic book artist for quite a while. Look at this great cover. I love covers like this with the little panels of characters. These are our 5 main characters that we're going to be introduced to in this issue. I gotta say, I don't understand why this comic didn't make it. I guess it sold pretty good for black and white, but this comic has everything a teenage boy would love to see in a comic. It's kind of funny almost how it just hits every note of how could this not be hugely popular? So here we see 5 more nice little drawings of our characters on the front piece. Kind of looks like Cyclops. And we start off. You can see by the art that, Denis Beauvais, who's a great painter, he's learning how to draw in black and white for, sequential narrative. And so definitely the first few issues, we see lots of techniques, him trying stuff, different styles of art, of drawing. And by the 3rd or 4th issue, it pretty much settles down to this really lush, beautiful airbrush art. And we'll see more and more glimpses of it, and pretty soon it becomes the normal style. But all these different styles he tries look pretty damn good. This, to me, is a great splash page. So basically in this world, there's this thing called the Rift. And there's 5 points on it, which are gates. And each gate has to have a gatekeeper. And that's who these 5 characters are, the Warlock 5. So we meet the first gatekeeper, this guy, Doomador. He's a knight from an alternative past, an alternative dimension from the medieval times. So it's almost like our medieval times, but way more fantastical. Sorcery works, there's dragons and shit like that. And this is his chief sorcerer, Morbid. And he's working a spell to summon more legions for his army. So we see these knights come through the portal. And Doomador leads them off to battle. And I love this. We see them like getting off this elevator, getting out of this elevator and going down this escalator in a modern North American city. They're walking through the subway. Just great imagery. In the same city, now we meet the second gatekeeper, this guy Argon, who's a cyborg from an alternate future. A lot of times he'll wear these human masks, and he's got an army of robot warriors, and he leads them off to battle. God, this is such a great panel of them trudging through the sewers. I love that. Totally it looks like he's doing a watercolor or something. So it has this kind of smudged effect, blurred effect. Great panel. Now we meet Savishtar and Tanith. So Savishtar is from an alternate future where there's these men dragon hybrids, and he is one of those. Tanith is from an alternate past that's kind of like fantasy, inspired by like a fantasy novel or something like Tolkien. She's a witch. She's a white witch. And these guys have formed an alliance. They're kind of like the good guys. They want balance on the rift. They know that they can't just go around killing each other because everyone wants to control the rift. They all are jockeying for power. But these two realize that they've made an alliance. They don't want to go trying to kill the other gatekeepers. So Tanith gets a little alert on her crystal ball, and it tells her that Argon and Dumador are going at it. So she says, "Quick, we must get there quickly." And her car peels out of her driveway. This is her mansion. She has this beautiful mansion in the city. We see her chauffeur, who's much more than a chauffeur, we'll find out. His name is Thorin. Tanith tells us that they don't realize it could destroy us all. They're fighting. It'll upset the balance of the grid. I guess that if the grid is compromised too much, I guess the whole universe will fall. So they pull into this underground parking garage. Meanwhile, we see this tricked out battle van. This is the fifth gatekeeper. We'll meet her soon. But she's just waiting outside to see what happens. So now in the parking garage, this is what I'm talking about. What teenage boy wouldn't love this comic? The army of knights and the cyborgs are, engaging in battle here. And they're fighting. So it's like knights versus robots. What's not to like? And this is just crazy all-out action here. Look at this panel. It's almost like every panel has a different art style. They're all pretty good, though. This guy can draw, Denis Beauvais. So Thorin takes off his chauffeur coat, goes in the trunk, and gets this enchanted sword and a machine gun. Once again, this is just wicked shit that, every kid's going to love. And Savishtar says, "Leave this one to me, Thorin." And Thorin's like, "Oh, I want to spill some blood." And Savishtar takes off his hat and coat. And he turns into his dragon form. I fucking love this panel. I loved it when I was 18, and I still love it. You can totally see that Denis Beauvais, from all those fantasy paperback covers, he's had practice drawing cool shit like this. That's just so well drawn, so cool looking. And he just lets loose with his dragon breath and torches both of the armies, at least most of them. Another great panel. So Tanith shows off her sorceress talents. She obliterates a bunch of them with a wave of her wand. And then Thorn finally gets to cut loose. And he's just going nuts on these guys with his sword, his machine gun. And then he confronts Dumador. And he's actually doing really good. He's kind of kicking Dumador's ass. But Dumador gets the upper hand and he kills Thorin. He runs him through, right through his skull. And as he dies, he says, Tanith, I love you. Dumador is reaching for the enchanted sword. Tanith zaps him with a bolt. And most of the armies go into retreat then. They're retreating because Savishtar is torching all of them. So Tanith mourns Thorin's loss. She, they were lovers, but he was her champion. We see her lifting the enchanted sword, which she owns, and she could barely lift it. She needs a champion to wield her magical sword. And it sounds like Thorin was just another in a long line of champions. She thinks to herself, why must they always die? Why do I use them so heartlessly? God, look at this. I love this. Savishtar totally torching this knight. Caught in midair. So Savishtar disposes of Thorin's body with his dragon breath. He just incinerates him. It's an interesting thing, even though these guys have the power of gods, they seem very worried about the authorities finding out about their activities. Like when the cops show up, they always run. I guess they don't want humanity at large to find out about this rift and the gates and all this kookiness. So as they're leaving the parking garage, they find their path blocked by that battle van we saw earlier. And it's Xania, the fifth gatekeeper, with their zombie gang. He's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So we got this crazy punk rock lady who's got this battle van that comes right out of Road Warrior or Generation Zero by Pepe Moreno. Look at this. It's got chainsaws attached to the bumper. And then she's got a crazy-looking zombie gang. It's just like, you're 17, 18 years old. It's like, yes, please more. Keep going. They just throw all this stuff in. The whole idea of the rift, this like cosmology of this comic, it's pretty loose. It's really just an excuse for these 5 characters to go at it. And every issue is pretty a wish fulfillment for teenage boys. We have a little editorial here by Gordon Derry kind of explaining this world that he's created. And then we have a backup strip called Jets, written by Keith Nicholson and Jack Torrance on the art. This guy's pretty good. Some of these faces, you could tell he's like, I can imagine in a few years, this guy could be amazing. I mean, this is nice cartooning, but this thing is pretty worthless, and I hope you don't mind. I'm not really going to get into it. It's trying to be humorous, kind of Star Trek-y, if Star Trek was, but, just a zany comedy. But it's pretty unfunny and pretty forgettable. But like I said, decent art, especially for Aircell. Aircell had a lot of not ready for primetime art. Like basically teenage boys. I love this back cover. That's some slick stuff. Okay, let's get number 2 going. So this begins 5 covers that are all portraits of our leads. And the first one is Xania. And you can just see Denis Beauvais. We can see his chops at work. So now we're getting more of the airbrush style. We'll see more and more of that as the series progresses. So Xania opens fire on Tanith and Savishtar. And she basically starts laughing, Xania, and says, I could have killed you if I wanted to. So once again, like I said, they're all in this kind of uneasy alliance. They all want to kind of wish the other ones would just go away. But each gatekeeper knows that there's a balance and they can't go too far. Like, she can't just kill Tanith and Savage Star, fuck up the whole grid. So she's basically there just to threaten Tanith and Savage Star. But as they leave, Tanith calls her a bitch, and Xania just loses it. Xania's kind of she's a loose cannon, let's say. She's nuts. She's basically nuts. So Xania starts firing at them, but they peel out in their car, running over some of the zombie crew while they're at it. And as they get back into their battle van, Xania vows to fry Argon's circuits. Meanwhile, we see this little robot with a video camera. He's been filming the whole thing. It's kind of cool, the effect he does here to make it look like you're looking at a TV screen. And also, meanwhile, Argon's watching this all through this camera, and he's vowing to destroy Xania. This is Xania's hideout, her stronghold. It's an old church. It's a great page there. And so Xania doesn't just have zombies in her army. She also has just like normal human bikers and punk rockers. So, she's home and she has this organ that she plays, which this is how she opens the dimensional portal, the gate that she's in charge of. So meanwhile, we see that robot with the video camera. He's spying the whole time. So Argon knows that she's about to bring another army through her gate. I didn't mention Xania is the only one here who modern day Earth is her natural home. She's not from some other alternate reality like the other ones. You can tell also that I'm sure Denis Beauvais did some commercial art because he just draws these flawless cars. I mean, this could be in an ad, right, for cars. He's just a really good drawer. So Xania sends one of her crew out to get some beer so they can party down while she's doing this summoning. And one of Argon's robot guys is trailing him. And he puts this little device on the battle van. And it kills the guy. Kind of like we'll just call him Mo. Because he looks like Mo from the Three Stooges. So Mo dies, and then the robot takes his place, puts on like a mask. And so he goes back to Xania's stronghold with the beer. And Xania's rocking out on electric guitar. Man, that's some slick shit. This is a weird thing to comment on, but I remember even when I was 18, and even today, it seemed like so weird and different that Xania had this really blatant armpit hair. And even today, I realize I can't think of any female character in any comic I've ever read that had such lush armpit hair. And she also, I kind of like how they draw her with like saggy tits. Like she's not the typical comic book idea like Tanith is. Tanith is this total wet dream on two legs. But Xania is more kind of real. She's just this cool, tough chick. Very kind of reminds me of like Wendy O. Williams. I'm sure that was probably what they were thinking of with Xania. Another totally different art style here. It's a great face. And then this is even different too. So all of her army, her crew are partying down. They're drinking beer. They're going crazy. Except for Mo. He's not drinking anything. So Xenia starts playing the organ, starts summoning an undead army from her dimension, another dimension. And right then, Mo strikes. Mo Ramone. And grabs Xenia by the throat, lifts her up over his head. She tears at his face and sees that he's one of Argon's soldiers. And then her zombie army attack Mo and knock his head off. Right then, Argon busts in the front door. I love Xenia here. She totally does this backflip and grabs her machine gun. Starts firing at him. So Terminator. And then Argon shoots this missile right into her gate. Looks like a pentagram. And it basically destroys it, leaving a big crater. And it unleashes all of these demons. Too many for Xenia to control. She's like, you android asshole, you've totally screwed us now. You just tore a hole in the grid. The entire universe is tilting out of balance. This is so well drawn. Look at this. I don't know what that is. It's white paint or something, but that's so great. So now we have part 2 of Jets, the backup comic. Still not funny. Still some pretty nice cartooning, though. It's not bad. It's not really good either, but... This is a young Dave Cooper. When he was a teenage kid, he drew for Aircel. Way before he became the darling of the fine art world. We got number 3 here. We got Doomador. He takes the cover slot. God, look at just what a great artist he is. This is just slick. Actually, this might be a photo. I don't know. I can't tell, actually. This is Tanith's mansion once again. And her and Savage Star are hanging out. And this newspaper boy knocks on the door. And it's really a vessel for one of the demons, Xenia's demons. Xenia sends her regards, witch. And she attacks, this demon attacks Tanith, scratches her face. Before I move on, I'm sorry, I just want to point out another great panel with the shadows and everything. And we find out another aspect of Tanith. She's very vain. She's furious. She's like, you marred my beauty. She torches him with some magic spell. And then the little boy, the newspaper boy, he goes up in flames too. So she's so furious. She's like, my face, my beautiful face. She's like, that slut, I'll tear her eyes out. Xenia, I'm gonna kill her. And Savage starts saying, you can't do that. We vowed not to attack the other gatekeepers. Tanith doesn't care. That's how vain she is. Just all of her planning and logic is out the window because she has this scar on her face now. And meanwhile, we cut away to the Brothers Restaurant. This is basically a neutral ground for the 5 gatekeepers. Whenever they want to have a parlay, they come to this little unassuming restaurant, little pizza joint. So Doomador shows up with his with Morbid, and Argon's there, with his human mask, and Xenia. And Xenia is basically saying, guys, we all have to unite. We got to close this hole in the universe that the fucking Argon made. And Dumador laughs at her. But then the demons from the other dimension start poking through the dimensional wall. So this is what I was talking about is, I think Denis Beauvais, he didn't realize how hard comics are. And there's definitely looks like he ran out of time. Look how much cruder this art is here. Especially this panel. Look at this panel here. This is so different than everything we've seen so far. I think basically Denis Beauvais was like, shit, I only have a few more weeks to get these pages done. Or a few more days. And we see a lot less of this as the series progresses. It's just pretty slick, nice airbrush, kind of painted artwork from, 4 or 5 on. So Dumador realizes how serious the state of affairs is, so he decides to help them. So they join forces. And Tanith shows up, and she's gonna zap Xania, but Savage Star stops her. I guess he followed her there. Once again, another 2 pages of pretty crude art. This is what most Aircel comics look like. All the time. So they eventually stop squabbling, and they decide, yeah, we have to take care of this. We got to unite. So they go to the dimensional hole in Xania's stronghold. Okay, now maybe he was saving up his art power for these pages. See how different this is? This is pretty cool looking shit here. And so they're all using their special powers to help seal the rift. I just love this page. These all look great. And then he whips out his airbrush. And it works. They seal the rift. And then as soon as everything's okay, Dumador basically planned an ambush. He says, fire! And all of his knights, his soldiers, break in, shooting arrows at everyone. And basically, Dumador attacks all of them. And Xania whips out a nuclear warhead. And she says, if you guys don't get out of my stronghold, we're all going to go turn into radioactive dust. Dumador says, what the? You'd die too. And this kind of sums up Xania's character. She says, so what? Life's a piece of shit anyway. And if I could take the 4 worst bastards in the universe with me, it might be fun. To be continued. I like how she's got an arrow through her mohawk. And then we have another chapter of jets. Hope it's okay, guys, that I'm not really going in depth about this. It's just so... I'm sorry, I just don't want to. This is kind of worthless. I'm really curious to see where Jack Torrance, in a few years after this, what his art looked like. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy got... It looks like he was on the path to becoming... He could have become a really good artist. Some ads for Aircel's comics. I used to collect this comic, Samurai, because a young Patrick McEwen drew it. And he threw in all this punk rockery into it. Like all the walls were covered with graffiti of punk bands. And at the time, punk wasn't very present in mainstream media. So I was just like amazed at this comic book. I was like, whoa, this guy knows punk rock bands. His art was pretty good too. That's why I collected it. But it's so forgettable. I can't even remember what they were about at all. Number 4, Savage Star gets the cover treatment. I like this little drawing he did of the writer and the artist. Really nice. So we start off in Dumbledore's castle. I guess he has a castle, but it's actually underground. It's like under the subways in this North American metropolis. Look at this. He's got a little teddy bear with an eye patch on. Denis Beauvais always throws in a few little goofy gags like that. So Savage Star shows up in his personal chambers. It's like his astral self. And basically, Savage Star says, I got to show you something. I'm going to access your astral form. So once again, even though this background's kind of ornate, it's a little different than the first page. More crude. Still looks pretty damn good, though. So Savage Star takes him back to Dumbledore's, his domain. This is where Dumbledore's from. This is an alternate past, like medieval past in Earth's history. Well, alternate Earth's history. And I guess these knights show up, Dumbledore's knights. They see Savage Star in his true form. They're like, it's a dragon, slay it. And he turns into his dragon form once again. That's a pretty nice page there. That looks like a paperback cover. That's some wicked shit. And so they go to this castle, and it's his father's castle. We find out a little bit about Dumbledore's past. I guess his father banished him from the kingdom. And so Dumbledore definitely has father issues. He hasn't seen his father ever since. I'm pretty sure that's a photo there. This is photo. But it looks, he just does it seamlessly. So we meet Dumbledore's dad, the king. I love he's got these 2 beautifully drawn lions. And apparently he's just a drunk, an abusive drunk. He basically thinks the son's back to steal the throne. So he sicks the lions on him. Savage Star takes him out. Look at that. That's such a cool panel. That's amazing. Savage Star doesn't want to hurt him, but he has to. Because the king doesn't call him off. So he rips off this lion's head. So the father is fed up with Dumbledore, and looks like he's gonna kill him. And then the father breaks down. He says, get thee gone, foul spectre, leave me to my encroaching madness. I rule, I am king eternal. He's just deluded, he's a deluded old man. So then Savage Star leads Dumbledore's astral self away from the castle, and he shows him his world. This is the alternate future that Savage Star is from. Apparently, it's a world of tranquility and peace. They live in harmony with nature. That's a pretty cool 2-page spread. It's like a Roger Dean album cover. That's pretty wicked. And that's it for that issue. We get these little like dossiers on Savage Star and Dumador. Pretty much like the official handbook of the Warlock 5 universe. And now we have a new backup, which makes me miss Jets. Because this is really bad, guys. I'm definitely not going to talk about this one much. It's called Dunwich and Gnome, Paranormal Investigators. And the story's by Gordon Derry. And the art is by Brian Donnelly, who I've never heard of before or since. This guy, Brian Donnelly's, who knows, maybe he got good, but he's not good in this. You could see him like he's just this amateur artist who's, learning on the job. This is kind of trying to be humorous, It's basically funny. Trying to be funny. It's not. I'll just show it to you. Looks like this artist is like trying, he's putting in work, but he just doesn't have the fundamentals down. These faces just look really amateurish. Look at this stupid looking monster there. And the art actually gets way worse after this one. It looks like he put a lot of effort into the first one and then trails off. Here we have the nature of the Warlock 5 universe, where Gordon Derry and Denis Beauvais explain this world. And we have the first letter page. Warlock 5, number 5. That's a pretty cool cover of Argon. Denis Beauvais does another nice front piece drawing of the two creators. So now we see we're in deep space, the 35th century of an alternate time stream. This is where Argus is from. See, now we're getting into the full-on airbrush art. So they're telling us a little about Argon's past, how we discovered the grid gateway. And we see him building oh God, I can't say that word. Simulacrum? I'll use another word. These doppelganger robots of the other Warlock 5. Simulacrum. So meanwhile, we're at Brothers Pizza once again. Brothers Diner. And once again, it's used as the place to have a parlay. Morbid calls Xania and Tanith. And basically Morbid, we realize, is a traitor. He wants to bring down Dumador. He says only by working together can we rid ourselves of him. But he's thinking to himself, then I can take his place. So Morbid doesn't have necessarily noble intentions in mind. So Morbid leads them down through the sewers and the subways to Dumador's underground castle. Before he left, he gave Dumador a sleeping potion, so he'd be asleep. But when they go into his chambers, Dumador is totally awake. Xania opens fire on him. And he just grabs a sword and just starts tearing through him. Man, look at this, some slick shit. It's like black and white painting. And so Tanith runs him through with this spear, right through the neck. And then Xania shoots him with her machine gun multiple times. She says, what is this, the Dawn of the Dead? He just won't go down. And then it's because he's actually one of Argon's robots. And after Morbid zaps him with a magical bolt, we see the cyborg interior. That's a great page. And so they finally kill the robot. And then the real Doomador wakes up. And it looks like Doomador has got a change of heart. That little astral projection trip he took with Savage Star, he kind of realizes that, oh yeah, maybe we should work together more. And he has no idea that Morbid was trying to bring him down. He actually hugs him and says, "My faithful servant, you saved my life once more." And he actually sheds a tear. He says, "I've made so many mistakes. Savage Star showed me we're all in this together. We should cooperate." Zany is like, "Yeah, sure." But it looks like Tanith is, she's moved by it. So it looks like they're all united against Argon. So yeah, Doomador's totally changed. He says, "Goodbye, my friends." So not the Doomador we know from the first few issues. And so Tanith calls Savage Star to meet. And I guess Tanith said some really bad things last times they were together. And it looks like their relationship is over. Savage Star says, "I'm sorry. I'm afraid our love affair is over." And as she walks away, she says, "Goodbye, my love." Well, she thinks to herself. And we see this guy around the corner. And he grabs Tanith. And it looks like he's going to assault her. And we see Savage Star behind him. And we don't know what his intent is. But just look how different this art is now. Pretty much this art is going to be par for the course from here on in. This kind of fancy airbrushed art. We get another dossier page, this time of Argon. Letter page, and another chapter of Dunwich and Gnome. That first issue had all that like duotone shading and stuff. And now he just, opposite, was like, that's too much work. And unfortunately, it seemed like that shading kind of covered his deficiencies as an artist. And now you can clearly see them. Oh, I don't even want to look at this anymore. I just figured you guys might want to see what it looks like. Here's an ad for some of Denis Beauvais' fantasy sci-fi prints. I guess he mostly did fantasy. Not a lot of sci-fi. So here's Warlock 5, number 6, even though it mistakenly says number 5 on the cover. And this time Tanith gets the cover spotlight. That's a pretty standout cover. So we start where we left off. And Savage Star, I guess he was behind that guy. He saw that Tanith was being attacked, and he rushed to her aid. It seems like this is Tanith's whole thing. She always has like she relies on guys to protect her, like a champion. So Savage Star devours this guy's soul energy. And he asks Tanith, "Why didn't you defend yourself?" And she says, "I can't resort to violence." Because I guess ever since she killed one of Doomador's men in the previous issue, she's become a total pacifist now. Back at her mansion, now we get to see Tanith's home reality, which is an alternate reality that takes place in the past, but it's this very, fantasy land past. And we see this evil witch plotting against Tanith. That's pretty nice. Man, this comic makes me feel like a teenage boy again. This has everything you'd want. So this monster attacks her, and she says, I can't fight until I've purified myself, reaffirmed my sacred vows. I'll flee instead of fight. And then once again, a champion shows up, this knight. And he fights the monster and kills it. Look at that. That's a cover. A fantasy cover. So the knight kills the monster, and he's instantly in love with Tanith and wants to be her champion. He's very like a typical knight. And Tanith says, I usually look after myself, but maybe this time you could escort me to my home. I have taken a vow of nonviolence. And he's like, my pleasure. His name's Sir Gawain. And she says, you will be well rewarded. And it looks like they're gonna get all romantical. But then one of Tanith's handmaidens comes out. She says, come in, these woods can be dangerous. Kind of cock-blocks the situation. So Tanith goes through this like renewal ritual. And just again, once again, this could be the cover of a full-on cover, you know? And meanwhile, the evil witch is watching. And all of a sudden, Tanith, who's feeling stronger and stronger due to this ritual, all of a sudden she's drained. She's weak and powerless. And it's the work of that witch. He basically snuck into her ritual and started draining her energy. I love the way he draws this. Kind of looks like Mick Jagger. I'll get the name in a second. Oh, maybe they never tell their name. But basically, this witch wants to take Tanith's gateway away. The witch wants to be the gatekeeper. Look at that, very cartoony. And we end with Tanith trying to fight off this demon witch. It's pretty crazy. We get a dossier page for Tanith. Dossier page for Xania. Letter page. And then more Dunwich and Gnome. Unfortunately. I'll let you look at it a little. God, some of these faces are just so bad. This is gross to me. They accidentally printed a letters page from another issue. They just basically totally fucked up this issue. So that's number 6, even though it says number 5. If you're going to buy these, keep that in mind. And here's number 7. And God, I love this cover. That is so cool looking. The colors and so chapter 7, Death and Dishonor. So we're back in Tanith's realm. This is the what is this called? The Convent of the White Sisterhood. That's where Tanith, where she grew up. Vampiric forces of evil, sorcery are pitted against white magic. Now look at this, man. This, just the chops here. It's all airbrush and painted. Just in black and white. It's amazing. Such a weird character. So then Sir Gawain shows up. Oh, look at this. Her fingernails become these long tendrils and attack Gawain. He's hacking away at them. They're going in his mouth. And then Tanith gouges the witch's eyes out with her fingers. It's a really good looking 2 pages right here. And then Sir Gawain chops off the head of this evil demon witch. So once again, Tanith is kind of maybe unknowingly manipulating yet another champion. She says, "Will you journey to a new world with me so you can continue to be my champion?" And he says, "I would follow you anywhere." So she's going to bring him back to Earth. So we see an alleyway behind the Brothers Cafe. And apparently Xania and Tanith have called Dumador to meet them. And he's still the lovey-dovey Dumador. And like Tanith is like flirting with him. And then they both pull out knives and they stab Dumador right in the chest. "You bitches, you betrayed me, you'll pay." But he just collapses. Xania and Tanith peel off in Tanith's car. And then this homeless lady, this bag lady, she finds Dumador dying in this alley, and she yells for help. And so Dumador's knights, I guess, just showed up late. And look at this. Knights on motorcycles chasing this cool old car. How fun is this? It's like that movie Night Riders by George Romero mixed with The Road Warrior. So Tanith's car crashes, and we realize that both Tanith and Xania are Argon's robots, the doppelgangers. The Simulacrum. I'm going to figure out how to say that, God damn it. So Argon picks up Tanith, the Tanith bot. The Xania bot, I guess, is destroyed. He blows it up, so there's no evidence when the cops get there. The cops talk to the bag lady, and she tells them what's what. She says those bikers, she's talking about the knights, she said those bikers took the body. If you find that the woman, she's talking about Tanith, if you find her, she'll lead you to the bikers. And they do find the metallic torso of Xania, the Xania bot. So the police are scratching their heads. And they do find also a license plate that says Tanith on it. Meanwhile, back in Tanith's mansion, she's making love to Gawain. And it's Savage Star on the phone. And he heard the news. And he's all like, "I can't believe you did it. I can't believe you were capable of cold-blooded murder." Look how great this page is, by the way, with the rain falling on this phone booth. It's like very film noir. And of course, Tanith's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, you expect a visit from the police pretty soon. And as she hangs up on Savage Star and they get back to their lovemaking, we hear the doorbell rings. It says to be continued. So we'll find out what happens when the cops question Tanith. Next episode, we have more letter page, and this is nice. They got rid of the backups. In the editorial, Gordon Derry mentions that Denis Beauvais is ready to do 28 pages a month now. So it looks like he figured out the comic book form after all, after a few months. And the art's pretty damn nice now, every page. It's not all fluctuating in style. So there you have it, guys. First part of our two-part look at Warlock 5. Next time, we're going to look at number 8 through 13. So I hope you enjoyed looking at these, and I hope you come back next time to watch the next batch. And thank you for watching and visiting the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.